Well, I'll tell you what, we worked this one hardy act, and we hope we can pull it off for you. But anyway, it's our pleasure. It's Dick has asked us to give you sort of insight as to who this Coach Dick Black is. And Dean, what was your first impression of Dick?
Well, Dick, you and I were sophomores at the time when Coach Black came to Grit. And first time I ever saw him was at football practice. And he was standing out there with his arms folded like some young stud, you know. And his muscles were bulging out. We wanted to take the left side of the line over to ask him that the muscles were supposed to go up instead of down. But then that would have to take the whole team to keep me alive. So we didn't do that.
I'll tell you what, Dick he used to talk about working for the packing house in Waterloo. And back in those days, you know, I laughed when we looked at the write-up over in the Hall of Fame. They were talking about Dick worked out on a mat that had ropes on the outside of it, like the old boxing matches and what have you. And I suspect it had the canvas, cover and what have you. But Dick, back then, you didn't have a weight program. And if people built big muscles, it was because they were usually farm boarders and what have you. But in Dick's case, he worked at a packing house, and he was truly an incredibly blessed guy when it came to strength. In high school, he had every win was a fall except for two, clear through high school. Undefeated in dual meets. He was undefeated his senior year. He was a state champion. I wrestled for Dave McCuskey at Iowa, and I remember Dave used to say, if Dick Black could have moved right into college out of high school, this guy he was one of the best coming out of high school. He'd been a national champion. But Dick had 6 years gap. He spent 2 years sort of a sabbatical at John Deere. I think capitalism got the best of him, and he was making money, and it made more sense in college. And then Uncle Sam came along, and Dick spent 4 years basically in the Pacific. He was in the 32nd Infantry. He was a medic. He was involved with the invasion of 3 islands in the Philippines and then Japan. So he had quite a record in that regard. Came back to Iowa State, entered college. When he entered college, it wasn't long until Iowa State teachers, again under Dave McCuskey, they had 7 national champions on that team, and Keith Young was one of them. And so he really stepped from the fire into the frying pan into the fire, I guess, because it was a tough deal. But Dick worked out Bill Cole every night. He and Bill Cole used to change from 45 to 55, and so Dick was a real contributor to a team that ended up having 2 national championship teams, and possibly goes down as one of the all-time great teams. Dean, why don't you cover Dick's record as a coach?
I always felt Black was emphasized on discipline, hard work, and solid fundamentals. His career covered 469 dual meets with a winning percentage of excess of 70%. That, a lot of dual meets. He had many state champions, sectionals, divisions, team champions. At the time, we probably didn't realize how good he was teaching techniques. But one thing I really learned was one night I opened my big mouth and I said I wasn't going to go home until I got away. Well, the roosters was almost crowing before I got out. So after that, I kept my mouth shut. So, Dick, what else can you tell us about that?
Well, I think that one thing about wrestlers, I think most of the time they look at us as kind of one-dimensional. We're good at, because wrestling is strength and what have you, and there's not supposed to be much finesse and what have you. But most wrestlers are multi-talented, and Dick was an example of it. This guy was he was the quarterback on the high school, senior high school football team. He was second in state in golf. He was a basketball pitcher in softball. Was hired by people like John Deere, pitched in the Industrial League, the packing house in Fort Dodge. So here's a guy that had a lot of talent. But I think the thing that really impresses me with Dick is that over the years, he's been in my home many times, and that's true of many of the kids that wrestled with him. He had a passion for the sport. He made wrestling fun. Every night, it was hard work, but we had fun. But he also had a love for his kids. He had a love for his family, his grandkids, his kids. Very important to him. And I guess the main thing that we, all of us that have supported Dick over the years, we've just been appreciative of what he has done for us. And in front of this crowd, I just like Coach Dick Black to know that we love him, and he means a lot to him. Dick?
I have no idea what they said.
Thank goodness.
So I'll get it from the boss over here later, what they said. I've just gotten I'm about 6 or 7 pair of hearing aids. I can hear everything, but I understand so little. It's just, I want to cry sometimes. Anyway, thank you, committee, very much. I'm just so honored and pleased to think that you would even consider me for this great honor. And I am so very, very thankful I'm here to enjoy the moment tonight. It was just about a year ago at this same time I was being inducted into the Minnesota National Hall. And it had to be the very worst time of my life. My son and I built me a house in the golf course 20-some years ago. I walk out the door, throw down a ball, and away I go. I love to golf. I love to walk. I could not walk. I had such pain in my back and my left leg every step I took. And since my surgery, of course, I've been walking every morning. But that particular night and that all last summer, I had 5 cortisone shots after I don't know how many dollars worth of pain pills that I went through, and nothing worked. And she would call, and he has to have something stronger. Well, anyway, I wound up getting 5 cortisone shots through the summer. And last fall, I had my son and my daughter were with me in Minneapolis, up in Burnsville, for these cortisone shots. And I stood there, my son and daughter were there, and I cried like a baby. I was in so much pain. I used to think I was kind of a tough old fogey, but boy, that woke me up, I'll tell you. That was pain like I wouldn't wish on anybody. Anyway, so we went over and I checked into emergency in Rochester. My friend's daughter's a nurse over there for many years, and she said they will not let you leave in pain. Well, I went over and got x-rays and tests and whatever, and they saw I was in pretty fair shape for an old fogey, I guess. So I asked the doctor, what's the deal? I said, you're not going to cut into this 82-year-old body. I said, what are my chances anyway? Well, he assured me that the worst that would possibly happen, maybe I would have a little numbness in one of my legs, but not very often. I said, let's do it tomorrow. Well, they did it. A week later, I had surgery on Friday noon, and Sunday noon I was home. So I was a terrible patient. Get me out of this place. Okay, anyway, let's get back to it. These 2 guys here, they're a piece of work. They left Brit in 52, or I left Brit in 52, and so that's when they graduated. And we kept pretty close contact for all these many years. This clown over here, Dick, we got up to assembly, 52, I put my arm around him and I said, this young man will be a national champion with normal improvement. Represent him with some luggage and stuff. And, well, 2 years later, freshmen weren't eligible then, but he went to Iowa. 2 years later, he was a national champion. The very next year, he called me and asked me if he could quit wrestling. Ah, boy. So I gave him my blessing because I had Dave McCuskey as a coach and I couldn't understood. And he said he just did not have time to study. And he said, I accomplished the goal that you set for me. So he said, I don't really feel like wrestling anymore. He said, I need time to study. Well, I think I told the crowd last year that all he does now, he and his wife, is make money. And he's a physical fitness fanatic and he's a golfing fanatic. And I think today he could still almost make weight. And this guy over here, Dean Hiscock, he is amazing. Every year, he drives school bus for school. He helps with the wrestling program, and I think he's weighed in the state high school wrestlers for at least the last 20 consecutive years. So he is keeping quite active. Anyway, go up to state tournament every year, and I haven't missed one since 1949. This guy finds me. There's a crowd of 12 to 15,000 people. He always comes and finds me, and we have a nice visit. This just means so much to me. Anyway, they so touched our hearts that as a senior, my wife was pregnant, and she said, Dad, if we ever have a boy, we're going to name him after our state champion wrestlers. Well, here they are, Richard Govig and Dean Hiscock. My son is Richard Dean Black. I mean, this is the truth. I mean, this is how much love I've had from these guys. So it's been a very nice relationship. I know my wife and I went out to see Dick several times and treated royally. He came last year to my induction up in cities and stuff, so it's super nice. And I think probably any of you coaches been in smaller towns, you probably know exactly what I'm talking about. You seem to get very close, very beautiful ties with you youngsters. You don't really quite get that sometimes in your bigger schools. But it's been a great relationship. I am so thankful for it. Okay, I have just a real quick story here that touched me several years ago. I got it on the internet, and it's about a 6th grade teacher. She said to her students one day, she said, I want you to write down the most beautiful, wonderful things to you in your life. Without fail, every student in that class except one, and in their papers they have 10 things listed. This little girl went up to the teacher and says, I just can't make up my mind which things I can't put these things in order. Hearing, seeing, laughing, crying, whatever. Think about that a little bit. My friend and I have experienced several of these things. I'll tell you about her. We both lost our better half, quite a few years ago. And about a year or so later, we met at senior bowling. And we hit it off pretty good, many things in common. Anyway, one night we had our tickets all dressed up and going to go to senior banquet. We walked in the door, bing, she had a stroke and went blind. Just like that. Her daughter was a nurse in Rochester for many years, so I went home, called her, and took her right over. And she's had surgery a couple of times since then, and her vision is almost completely gone now. And I sat trying to listen to these clowns a little while ago, and I couldn't understand one word. And that's kind of the story of my life for the last quite a few years now. If you don't know the price of these stupid things, $6,000 and they're not worth it. Anyway, I tell everybody now, she's my mouthpiece. She has super great ears and my eyes are excellent. So I see for her and she hears for me, so we get along beautifully. Simple as that. Okay. Let's get to this little Dick Black story here. Oh boy. This is a little different than most, I'm sure. When my dad was, when I was, I don't know, 10 or 11, I guess, my dad took off. Way back when. There were 4 of us, 3 boys and a girl. And we moved to town. For 5th and 6th grade in Fort Dodge, I went to every grade school in town and some of them several times. We had to move quite often. I hate to admit this, but I even went up and visited Mom in the jail a couple of times. She'd write out a couple bad checks trying to take care of us. Anyway, big deal. It made me stronger. My 2 brothers, my 2 older brothers and I, we worked very hard, shoveling coal mostly for me and my brothers. The one brother, Tuesday and Thursday, my oldest brother, we would shovel coal to the 2 hotels on Tuesday and Thursday night. And my other brother, we would unload coal cars on weekends. As a 30-ton, we'd get $6 for that. It'd take us Saturday and half a day Sunday. $6. I'd take my $3 home and give it to Mom. If it was 40-ton, we'd get $8. Whoopee! All day Saturday and all day Sunday, we'd shovel coal. I'd take my $4 home and give it to Mom. But I guess anyway, we got through that. Started the high school, 9th grade, and I was the starting guard on the basketball team, I guess, because I was a free throw champion in 8th grade. They didn't have wrestling in Fort Dodge yet in the junior high. And one Thursday night, my oldest brother was a senior, I was a freshman, and he said, "Little brother," he said, "you better listen to me." He said, "First of all, you are going to graduate." I was the only one of 4 of us that did. And he said, "Next," he said, "you're going to go out for wrestling." Okay, so I went to school next week and went to the basketball coaches and told them I had to go out for wrestling. Hey, you can't do that. We can't let you change from one sport to the other in the same season. I said, "You tell my brother that." Anyway, so I started wrestling, and I wrestled a couple of times in a boxing ring in the 9th grade. The sophomore year, I wrestled 4 times. Junior year, I wrestled 8 times, 8 matches. We'd have 4 at home and 4 away. By the way, my hometown, Owatonna, was 60-1 this year. 60 dual meet wins, 1 loss. We wrestled 4 at home, 4 away. So hard for me to even comprehend this kind of stuff. Anyway, my senior year, they had a rule in there that, well, my coach, I think, was a little bit ahead of his time, Fred Cooper. He said, when teams come to Fort Dodge, we're going to go wrestle this way. 85-pound, 100 heavyweight. He said heavyweights are so boring. Then the 95-pound class and the 165 and so on. Well, I was a 135-pounder, so I was last. And 3 out of our 4 home meets, we had to have a pin to win. Well, we finished 8-0, so I guess it was kind of exciting for the fans, but back in those days, there really weren't too many good wrestlers, so I didn't. And I worked out with the state champion in the wrestling room all the time. I took a lot of knocks in there, so I learned in a hurry. But anyway, that was kind of fun. Okay, so Bill Cole, I have to talk about him for a second. I wish he was still there. He and I were pretty good friends. He and I wrestled together at high school for junior. He was a year behind me and a weight below me. his folks used to have me over to eat once in a while. And at the end of the season, we would go to Waterloo, this big Y tournament they had. And then we'd always go to an AAU tournament. Well, when I was a senior, Bill, not much, I mean, just strictly a so-so wrestler. This is no lie. Most of you know him as what he did in college. Anyway, he wrestled in this AAU tournament after the season was over. And Bill took, I think I'm right on this Dave Natbig, I think was a national AAU champion maybe. Bill went to an overtime with him and lost in overtime. He said, Dick, he said, I am as good as he is. I do not have to lose anymore. And I don't think from that day on Bill ever lost a match, because he was a 135-pound state champion next year. And there was a couple times in my wrestling days there, one time he'd give me a big whack in the back. And, boy, Dick, you're really slipping. You didn't bloody his nose before you pinned him. Well, I kind of got that brainwashed into my head. My big brother would always ask. He would never ask if I won. He'd say, how long did it take you to pin him? He'd always ask me that. So I just kind of got that in my head. That's what you're supposed to do, take him down and pin him. Okay, then we had these guys, I think, told you a little bit about my 4 years in the service and a couple years of working and stuff. And then 6 years out of high school when I went to college, so I was pretty much over the hill. But I gave it a shot. And it was, I'd get out of practice, go home, my wife would have lunch, bring eat, inhale it, and give her a kiss, and go jump on a bus, go to Waterloo and work for John Deere from 8 till midnight. Get on the bus, come home. I had an 8 o'clock class all through college, and like I say, 2 years and 9 months I was through college. The coach got so terrible mad at me, he didn't want me to take all those hours, and I had absolutely no idea how to study. I skipped school a lot in high school because I took every little job I could possibly find at 20 and 25 cents an hour. Well, I got to tell you one other quick little story. I took typing 1 year in high school. And this cute gal caught me after class, said, Dick, I want to talk to you a minute. She says, I understand your situation, whatever, blah, blah, blah. But like I said, I was skipping school a lot and working all the time. And she says, I'm going to give you a C, but I very highly recommend you do not take typing again next year. I didn't. I was so thankful. I was terrible. I just, oh. Okay. I got to say one more thing here. Is that all right with you? You know, I am just so very lucky and blessed. I would wish this on everybody. I have the most beautiful, wonderful, loving, caring, brainwashed family one could ever hope to have. I have my 2 daughters and their husbands, Diane and Donna. They go to wrestling all the time, wrestling meets, wrestling tournaments. They go to nationals every year. I went with them for quite a few years. Actually, the last national I went to was out in New York a few years ago, 3 years ago, 4 years ago, and Caleb Sanders won his big match. And we happened to be sitting just a few rows up above where Caleb was down here trying to get himself all pumped up, ready to wrestle. And here's a stupid reporter with his mic right under his nose, following him around. I yelled down at him, get away from him. And of course I got the word from my daughter, Dad, be quiet. You know, that so reminded me of quite a few years previously. There's a young man over here that's out trying to get ready to win his wrestler's final match. And here's a reporter sticking the mic under Dan's nose before he was trying to get ready to wrestle. And that just That hit me so quick. I thought, how stupid can that reporter be? Here's a guy trying to get ready for his big match, and these guys are trying to be newsworthy or whatever. One more thing on Bill Cole. I'm jumping around him, so I'm done right now. What? Am I going to talk about that? Sorry. Hey, it's been retired for 20 years. There's a couple things on Bill, and then I'm done. Not quite. I got to finish my family. I'll be done in just a couple of minutes. Bill Cole, it was so difficult to even sit next to him when he wrestled in college. This is truth. I'm going to kill that so-and-so. I'm going to kill that so-and-so. And he did. He would. This is true. One time, this guy was so stupid it couldn't be. He kept standing up. Bill had the greatest duck hunter. I mean, he duck hunter, put him on his hip. This guy kept standing up on Bill, and he put him on his hip, head first down on the mat. The knee would touch a fraction of a second before his head. It was legal. Now this one guy, he cold cocked, and Bill could feel it. So he was shaking him, trying to make the referee think the guy was still alive. And then he literally got underneath and picked him up and carried him over to his... This is the truth. This is the truth. This really is. I mean, I was there. I saw it happen. It was something else. Okay, just back to my family. I forgot them last year. I can't do that again. Anyway, I have 7 granddaughters. 2 of them are dentists. One's a nurse, 3 teachers, and one was on a reporter on Channel 11 up there for a couple of years. Now she's a proud mama. They and their husbands, they go to wrestling all the time. And last year, I guess I had to go to the bathroom or something. I walked down the steps. Here we were, 20. My grandson was a 2-time state champion at Apple Valley. He's coaching at Apple Valley now. Here we were, 22 of us, all at the state wrestling tournament. So, it gives me such great feeling to know that maybe for many years to come, the Dick Black family will probably be pretty good spectators at wrestling, and this couldn't make me any happier. Thank you very much.